sticker on the wall, the pale light of a street lamp coming in, steady like a waterfall. His thoughts keep spiraling inside of me, and you are so different from the truth.
Hello again. We've come camping and got asked a few people to bring a few knives along, and so they have. I normally end up being the guy that ends up sharpening knives for people when we're camping, but it's a fun thing to do when you're camping. Sit down and get a little bit of relaxing time, very therapeutic time, do a bit of sharpening. So a lot of people use Japanese water stones and various other bits of kit and that kind of stuff. But what I've got here is I've got a few bits of wet and dry, 320, 120, 150, and I've got a nice diamond sharpening block here as well. Grand. So one of my go-to knives, then the thing that I put in my bug out bag, if you want to call it that, my camping equipment bag, is a Fallkniven F1, which is the Swedish Air Force pilot's knife. This has a very difficult blade to sharpen. There's actually two pieces of metal in this knife. There's a hardened piece in the middle, and on the outside here there's a piece of metal that's folded around it to keep it a little bit more supple. I keep this absolutely shaving sharp. So what I've got in the case here, the little diamond sharpening file, and also a piece of emery cloth, a very, very fine piece of emery cloth. And pretty much every time I use this, I just give it a little touch with this sharpening equipment, and always make sure I stay on top of my go-to knife. Well, I try to sort of service all of the knives and stuff that I have, but there's some really good stuff. This is a Barco. It's quite well used, as you can probably see here, again, this is in my go-to bag. This is something that we use for, you know, getting bits of dead wood and making fire, that kind of good stuff. Simon, a friend of mine, brought along a silky saw, which is a whole new concept. This thing is evil sharp and whips through branches in a heartbeat. And that lovely bowed shape to it means that when you're doing your sawing action, it's actually cutting a lot more efficiently than perhaps a straight saw. So a very nice piece of kit, that. Thank you very much for bringing that along, Simon. We've got a spoon carving knife here, or a hooked knife, or maybe a bent knife, whatever you want to call it. Not too sharp, maybe needs a little bit of work doing. You'd obviously need a round file or a bit of emery cloth to get in here. And then I've got some knives that I've made as well. I sound like a knife maniac now, don't I? This one's been wrapped in a little bit of Chinese cloth by my wonderful wife, who's from Taiwan. And she just wanted to wrap it in that to make it a lucky knife, so that it didn't cut anybody by accident. And I made this in the garage at home. It's a piece of 01 tool steel, and there are some brass inserts on it. The scales are made out of wenge wood, and I've got a little leather lanyard on it here. And then this is a leather sheath that I pop riveted not very well, but again, this is a go-to knife, and I keep it absolutely shaving sharp. But yeah, really good, solid, quenched. This is heat treated and quenched in Land Rover oil, and it has a very, very, very sharp point on the end of it there. So that's one I made. Another one that I made, I think this was one of my first ones. Not exactly a beautiful knife, more of a machete knife. But I welded a piece of steel to another piece of 01 tool steel. But it is surprisingly sharp. But yeah, it's a bit of a monster, and then the sheath is just quite messy and whatnot. But we also have a SOG here, which is a bit of a Japanese sort of military style hunting knife, or fighting knife. It's quite an evil looking beastie, and that's quite sharp as well. What else have we got? We've got the upgraded Fallkniven. So this is the Fällkniven F1, but this, instead of having the rubber scales on it, this has got wooden scales, and it has those laminate inserts around the scales there. Very pretty looking knife. Again, uses the same technology, the folded metal technology. They're a bit of a pain in the butt to sharpen. They don't have, you know, like a single beveled edge. These are rounded, so you need to sharpen them on something that's slightly compliant. It's very difficult to sharpen them on something like a block here. You're far better off sharpening these with a little bit of emery cloth or some very, very, very fine sandpaper. But they really hold their edge very, very well indeed. What else have we got here? Matty brought us his eBay knife, and this is a bushcraft that he bought from eBay by a company called Highlander, a bit of a camping company. It's steel. It's not really special in the sense that it doesn't hold its edge very well. It's a very soft, sort of mild steel knife, but it's easy to sharpen, and so long as you stay on top of it, it's quite a useful knife to have, but it doesn't hold its edge very well, and that's the difference between a poor quality knife and a good quality knife. You do get a ferrocerium rod and a little bit of hacksaw blade with it so that you can strike that ferrocerium rod. We've got a sort of more traditional American style buck knife here. It's a bit like a little hunting knife. Never really thought very much of these, to be honest. I don't know how good the steel is on these, and I feel they're a bit light. I don't think it's a full tang knife. I don't think the build of the steel runs all the way through to the end of the handle. I think it probably stops about here, and I think if you were really to put some pressure on this, I think it would probably break off at the handle. It just doesn't feel very heavy. It doesn't feel very solid. I'm sure there's probably different levels of quality of those. There's a friend of mine that has another one, and he quite likes it. And you know, so yeah, another SOG here, but all of this to one side. In fact, over here, one of my favourite, it's not a knife, it's an axe. It's the Gränsfors Bruks Swedish axe. Thanks very much, Simon, who's over there carving spoons at the moment. This is a magnificent axe, and it is shaving sharp. It's absolutely magnificent. Forged steel and heat treated head. All handmade as well, all handmade in a blacksmithing factory, you know, with machines obviously, but yeah, fantastic axe, really good go-to axe. Not really a splitter, more of a carver than a splitter, but could easily fell some small trees with it. So give that back to Simon so he can get on and do his thing. And then finally, a friend has recently purchased a Japanese sushi or fish knife. And one thing that I noticed when this was given to me, please can you sharpen this? One thing I noticed, it has a really, really big burr on the end of it. I don't know if you can hear that. I'll do it by the microphone. That's my thumbnail pinging off the burr on that knife. So what we've got here is a single beveled edge knife. So this effectively has one bevel on it. So when you're slicing through fish, you have the ability to maintain a flat direction. If you have two grinds on the knife, trying to control where that knife is cutting is much more difficult. So obviously, in order to sharpen this bad boy, the first thing we've got to do is get rid of that burr, and ultimately what we need to do is put this flat with perhaps just a little bit of pressure on the front edge there, and just move that down the sharpening block just to get rid of that burr. And as soon as that burr's gone, we can give it a little bit of a test. and see how that feels. Yeah, it's on its way. In fact, you can see on the back of here now, you can see a little bit of metal powder coming off there, but you can still feel that burr. So I'll go ahead and work on this, and hopefully soon we'll be able to show you a beautifully sharp knife. Well, thanks for watching. Hope you don't all think I'm too bonkers, but I'm going to sit here in the sunshine and do some therapeutic sharpening.
The flicker on the wall, the pale light of a street lamp coming in, steady like a waterfall. His thoughts keep spiraling inside of me and you.
So thanks very much, guys, for watching. Hope you don't think I'm too bonkers. But knives have always interested me, and I might actually plan to have a go at making some of my own knives in the not too distant future again. So I'm going to sit here in the lovely English sunshine, and we're going to go ahead and fix up this knife, make it nice and sharp for our chef friend. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, rate, thumbs up, thumbs down, and put some comments and put your thoughts in the comment section below. Cheers.